There's a lot of different things that can affect the silver market, but there's one sign that many investors may be missing. We'll discuss it as we explore. I use that term investor purposely because a lot of what drives the market are people that, quote, invest in silver. And usually that means on the paper markets and the derivatives. For those of us who are silver stackers, well, we usually are steady in our stacking through ups and downs and anywhere in between. Although there's a good time to not buy silver when the price dramatically skyrockets, for instance. But nonetheless, there's another angle here that is quite intriguing that's going to play a role and have an effect, obviously, on stackers as well as those who like to think of it as an investment. I'm going to be referencing an article here from goldinvest.de by Bjorn Juncker, and this is quite a fascinating piece because it centers around silver production in a different way. Now, the channel sponsor is Summit Metals. They certainly have made a name for themselves with excellent customer service, incredible shipping times, and just an all-around great company with a wider selection than ever before at their website, summitmetals.com. So check them out. Now, anyone who wants to be active in silver must think about Mexico. Mexico is one of the largest producers of silver around, and if you're in the mining sector, that's another way that you can invest. And certainly we know this. We have to keep up with what's going on in the mining sector. And you must think about Mexico. The warning does not come from Gold Invest, but from Keith Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic Silver. He repeats this statement like a mantra to emphasize the high importance that the Central American country has for global silver production. Mexico is by far the largest, thus most important producer of silver, ahead of China. What happens in Mexican silver mining, therefore, inevitably has consequences for the entire planet. The announcement from Fresnillo, the world's largest silver producer, that its own production declined by 12% in the first half of 2025, therefore caused a stir. That is a big warning sign, folks. That's right, it has fallen pretty dramatically for the first half of 2025. Now, there's another caveat to this, and it's another country that I discussed on this channel some time ago that we also have to look at as well. Another warning sign that it may actually be good for silver if played out to its fullest potential. I'll get into that in a moment. As reasons for the very significant decline in production, the company cited lower ore grades and the closure of its own mining operations. Both aspects are likely to worry silver buyers because after 5 years of a deficit between supply and demand, the remaining inventories are comparatively low. Now, this doesn't say anything really about government nationalizing. That was talk for a while that the government may nationalize some of the mines there, but nonetheless, an expansion of production would therefore be desirable, but silver production is declining instead of increasing. Declining ore grades and the closure of mining operations point in the opposite direction. At this point, the neglect of searching for new deposits caused by the lower silver prices in the last decade is just now starting to take its toll. That's right. So think about this. The last decade, they admit silver prices were low. And I tell you what, it was a good time to buy. You know, there was a time when I said that anything under $20 was a bargain for silver. And, of course, I've said that so many times when silver never reached $20 an ounce that people thought, well, it's kind of crazy. And nonetheless, here we are, almost double that at this point in time. It's crazy. It's wild to see. But it's amazing to see the markets come back. But, of course, I still think silver has a long way to go to get back to where it should be, in my view. And I'd be very curious as to where you think silver's prices should be. But I'm thinking somewhere in the mid-40s, maybe even closer to $50 is where it should be at this point in time. And that's taking out the all-time highs in 1980 and 2011, which adjusted for inflation will be much higher than the $50 of the nominal price. Now, finding new deposits, checking their economic viability, and finally obtaining approval for new mines. However, that takes time. In the past, all of these steps could easily take 10 to 15 years, but today, due to stricter environmental regulations, it's more like the 15 to 20 years. Higher environmental standards for the benefit of nature are certainly to be welcomed. However, their effect must also be taken into account in good time, and precisely that has not happened in recent years. A whole series of factors came together and caused an irretrievable loss of time that can hardly be made up. So that's really the prospect there. Now, when you think about the amount of primary silver producers out there is lower than it has ever been before. It's been falling precipitously over the last 10 years, and right now the vast majority of silver is produced as a byproduct of other metals. But the number one producing country is by far still Mexico. Now, since the price of silver remained only slightly above the production cost of many mines until about 2022 and 2023, they did not have sufficient financial leeway to find and develop new deposits. So for years, only a bare minimum was done, and that was far too little and too late. Financial help could have come from the capital market if it had been willing to finance the risky exploration of new deposits, but investors preferred to turn to Bitcoin rather than support the search for new silver deposits in remote regions. By the way, if you want to continue to transact in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, well, you're going to need silver for that, copper too, but silver is going to be extremely important for that. While this is currently changing and relatively large amounts of venture capital are flowing into the sector compared to previous years, the years lost before are irretrievably gone at this point. What's more, they threaten to further exacerbate an already tense situation. Now, you know that there has been more exploration mining companies that have been sprouting up, and usually there's some big investors backing some of the more legitimate ones, but of course, you know, they're risky. And I've covered some of those mining stocks on this channel. Not as many silver ones, though, but there are still silver mining explorers out there, and that brings me to what I talked about in a previous video some time ago about Poland. They are saying that there is a massive silver deposit there, and I've not heard anything more about it since then. According to some preliminary estimates and what some of the data have, apparently there's a whole heck of a lot there. Will it be explored more? Can we get more evidence that there's something out there? And how long will it take? Will it take 15, 20 years in order to extract that silver out? It almost seems like anything like that, by the time that occurs, well, and before, it's going to probably have to be $50 an ounce before they can really take action. And will they be able to do it quickly? I don't know how the Polish regulations, environmental regulations are. I mean, certainly we want them to be careful, but certainly if silver is certainly in demand, well, that means that there's going to be a lot more pressure to get that silver out of the ground. And for not only environmental reasons to help other areas around the world, but it's even in Poland. So while it's currently changing, the relative large amounts of venture capital are flowing into the sector compared to previous years. The years lost before are irretrievably gone at this point, and they threaten to further exacerbate in an already tense situation. Now, the unique properties of silver have made it a metal that is indispensable today for various applications and industries. There's over 10,000 use cases of silver. Silver has unmatched electrical and thermal conductivity. Its reflectivity is exceptional. In fact, it is the most reflective metal on the periodic table. And its malleability and ductility are excellent. While silver is not needed in large quantities in most cases, it is indispensable where it is used. More than 80% of silver demand now comes from industrial applications. Think about that for a moment. That means only 20% for jewelry and for us in this form here, bars, coins, and rounds. So that is kind of intriguing. That's, I heard that was just over 50% of demand is for industrial applications, and the balance for jewelry, for silverware, and for stacking. Every solar panel, every electric car, every 5G antenna, every advanced battery, every precision robot. And by the way, that's something else that we're starting to see now happen, personal assistant robots. I've looked into this recently, and there's already some very basic models, humanoid and dog-like models that are coming into the market now. And we could see them continuing to flow. They'll be able to fold your laundry for you. They'll be able to help you cook, babysit your kids. The Tesla robot, the Optimus, is the one that's the most talked about. But there's others that you can buy right now that don't do as much as the Optimus, but still, there's still a lot of potential there, and that technology could quicken, and there could be a great demand for that. So that is fascinating, and it's not clear where the silver is needed for this, as we see this for the coming years, and not to mention the solid-state silver batteries that is pushing into the market. They say they may begin production of that late 2026, early 2027 for some highly expensive, for the more expensive electric vehicles like for Mercedes, etc. So we'll see. It will also and additionally relies on a secure supply of silver. Last year, global industrial demand, industrial silver consumption reached a new high of over 680 million ounces. It is expected to be surpassed again this year, as forecasts for 2025 predict silver demand will rise to 700 million ounces. While all these applications are additionally competing for silver available for the market, the supply from mines has been declining by about 7% per year since 2016. And the biggest example, as I mentioned, is for Fresnillo's announcement that not a lot of people are talking about, as I mentioned earlier in the video. And so this is pretty scary. Now, silver recycling has increased. It cannot keep pace with the loss of newly mined silver. It's obvious that the scarcity and the struggle for the last available silver will be decided by the price. It's got to be economically viable in order for that to occur. Far-sighted investors are taking advantage of this opportunity. They are betting on large, well-known silver producers. And so you look at that, and looking also at exploration companies as well, and see what happens there. But a fascinating story, and it's just another area and another reason why I think silver has got a very bright and shiny future ahead in terms of its price proposition. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen down the road with silver and silver's price. We're going to see dips. And yes, as I mentioned in a video recently, which I'm going to link to at the end screen because I think it's a very important video, we're going to see another crash in silver's price at some point in time. I don't know when, but stay tuned for it and know how to prepare for it. So with that being said, I hope you found this video useful, insightful, and educational. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.